right, I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6 PM, November 1st, Planning Commission. And our flag salute will be by Commissioner Fernando Solis.
Stand, place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I hope we never take that for granted. I love that we do that. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hagel,
Here.
Ruiz.
Here.
Solis.
Here.
That's Hagel. Commissioner Watts.
Here.
And Chair Charlie Trail.
Here. Thank you. Okay, do we have any public comments on non-agendized items?
We have not received any.
Okay. We'll go to the consent calendar. All matters listed under consent calendar are considered to be routine, and all will be enacted by one roll call vote. There will be no discussion of these items unless members of the commission request specific items be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. A total of 30 minutes is provided for members of the public to address the commission on items that appear on the consent calendar. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Public comments may be made in person at the meeting by submitting a speaker card to the commission secretary. Speaker cards will be called in the order received. Still images may be displayed on the projector. All other audio and visual use is prohibited. Public comments may also be submitted by email for inclusion into the record. Email comments must be received prior to the time the item is called for public comments and submitted to planningcommission@temeculaca.gov. All public participation is governed by council policy regarding public participation at meetings adopted by resolution number 2021-54. And our first item is the minutes. So do I have, actually it's our first and only item.
Move to approve the consent calendar?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Just to clarify, I was absent, but I did watch it on video, so.
All right, motion carried, minutes approved. All right, we will move on to the public hearing. Any person may submit written comments to the commission before a public hearing or may appear and be heard in support of or in opposition to the approval of the projects at the time of the hearing. If you challenge any of the projects in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at the public hearing or in written correspondence delivered to the commission secretary at or prior to the public hearing. For public hearings, each speaker is limited to 5 minutes. Public comments may be made in person at the meeting by submitting a speaker card to the commission secretary or by submitting an email to be included into the record. Email comments must be submitted to planningcommission@temeculaca.gov. Email comments on all matters, including those not on the agenda, must be received prior to the time the item is called for public comments. Any person dissatisfied with the decision of the commission may file an appeal of the commission's decision. Said appeal must be filed within 15 calendar days after service of written notice of the decision. The appeal must be filed on the appropriate Community Development Department form and be accompanied by the appropriate filing fee. All public participation is governed by the council policy regarding public participation at meetings adopted by resolution number 2021-54. I should have that memorized, but I don't. Okay, so item number 2, planning application number PA23-0236, a modification application to a conditional use permit to revise conditions of approval related to operating hours for a new restaurant, Calaveras. The proposed revisions will allow the restaurant to remain open until 12 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. Additionally, Saturday and Sunday opening hours will begin at 10 a.m. The restaurant must open at 11 a.m. on Saturdays and Sundays and close at 11 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays under the current conditional use permit. Associate Planner, Eric, it's you. You're on.
Thank you. Planning application PA 23-0236 is a modification application to essentially modify the operating hours of a previous conditional use permit for a restaurant. The project is generally located in the northeast corner of Old Town Front Street and 4th Street intersection. It's located in the red box area you see before you, and it's on the second floor of that building. Take a few moments and talk about the original conditional use permit. It was for a restaurant. It was approved back in March of 2021, and it allowed a Type 47 license, and the hours associated with that CUP were Monday through Sunday from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. The applicant's proposing to change the hours on a few of the days. I would provide a little table here to try to organize it for you. Basically, Monday through Thursday are going to remain the same, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. And then Friday, they'd like to open up at 11 a.m. and then close at 12 a.m. Saturday, open at 10 a.m., close at 12 a.m. And then Sunday, open at 10 a.m. and close at 11 p.m. Let's talk about a few things that the application does not propose. First, it doesn't propose any revisions to the existing alcohol license. It doesn't propose any new alcohol licenses also. They propose no revisions to the site, no revisions to the structure whatsoever. And they also propose no live entertainment or any entertainment at all, excuse me. But I should note that the applicant has been informed that should they want to pursue entertainment, then they have to do that through the entertainment license, or they have to do it through a TUP, depending on what the scope of their proposal is. Let's take a quick look here at the floor plan. You can see before you the tables and chairs. They're using a little bit of the patio area. The red boxed area just kind of shows the hostess area, the main portion where you get into the restaurant. And then we did have a revision to a COA, number 63. I'm not going to ask you to read all this. But basically, the bold text at the very bottom, we added that. And it just makes it more clear when the last call for alcohol should be no less than 30 minutes before closing. So we just clarified that up a little bit. From a secret perspective, the project is exempt per section 15301 class 1 as it is an existing facility. The original CUP was done for a restaurant. This is also a restaurant, so it kind of fits nicely hand in hand. Based on the information that's presented, staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the project based on the required findings and subjected to the revised draft conditions of approval. This concludes our presentation. I'm available for questions. We have the applicant sitting in the audience if you'd like to speak with her as well. Thank you.
Thank you for the staff report. Any questions of staff? Want to start on this end?
Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks, Eric. Just quick question. I had actually emailed this in already, but I just wanted to have this down on record as well. And I had asked if there had been any sort of negative reports from police or law enforcement or anything
Sure.
related to the business and late night activity. Can you just report back on
Yeah,
that?
sure. So as part of the review, and even up until a couple of weeks ago, I reached out to PD just to make, because they've been open now for a couple of months, I believe. So just to make sure that everything was in order, do they have any concerns? And the response from the police department was no concerns. They've been a great business to work with. I also reached out to code enforcement, see if they had any issues. Said none. They don't have any problems with this operator.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Bob?
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I read that between 11 and 11:30, they can serve one additional drink per customer. And then from 11:30 to 12, they would not be able to serve any additional drinks. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a COA in there that talks about when they can serve their alcohol. And when you get to that 11 o'clock hour, I believe it talks about the limiting factor, if you will. And then once you hit 11:30, you kind of run into that last half hour of last call and
Right.
whatnot. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So, and that, of course, that 11 o'clock is given if they're open to 12.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Okay. I think that's it for now.
Fernando? Questions of
Yeah,
staff?
I have two questions. I think it's the same thing. Is that something that's consistent with ABC rules? Or is that something that the city is placing?
That's something that the city's placing. We don't enforce, well, ABC has their own set of requirements for their own licensing, but we're free to implement those types of conditions of approval. That COA, actually, all the COAs, as I'm sure you're aware, get vetted through the city attorney and whatnot. So it's an appropriate condition of approval, and the applicant has read all the COAs and has agreed to abide by them.
Okay, that was my first question. Then my second question is condition of approval number 27. Is like drinkers guides posting. So is this, all this language is supposed to be in their menu?
Let me get to it. Hang on one second.
Okay.
It can be a standalone display, or it can be incorporated into the menus per the condition. But yet, this is information that needs to be made available to any either patrons or employees or any city official or law enforcement officer that comes into the establishment.
Is this something new that we're doing, or is
Yes,
it?
this is something new. There's a variety of conditions of approval that are on this particular project that are new for alcohol-related applications. We worked with an alcohol consultant over the past several months to come up with these. And obviously, like I mentioned a moment ago, these have all been vetted by the city attorney, and the applicant has read through them and is agreeing to abide by them.
So, all right, that was my question, because I'm like, wait, this is as big as like a menu. You know, half of this language is like a menu, so they're gonna
Doesn't have to be on the menu, though.
Oh, it doesn't have to
It
be on the
doesn't
menu.
have to be, it can just
Okay.
be a
It's
standalone.
either or.
Okay, that's it.
Questions? Okay, any other questions of staff? The only thing, can you go back to the slide that shows the layout, please? So Front Street is where the red is. That's Front Street? Yeah,
Front Street's right through there.
and then, and the restaurant itself goes all the way across the top of the building?
On the
Ab-
second floor. takes-
Above, like, the co-op also?
Yes, they take up the whole second floor.
Okay. Okay, I wanted to have that, know where I'm at. Okay?
Sure.
Thank you. Any other questions of staff? Okay, then we are going to invite, I'm going to open the public hearing first. And you're already here. I like it. Just bring it down closer to you and hopefully it's on.
Hello.
There we go.
Good evening. My name is Lila Gradamaso with Liquor License Brokers, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant. And I'm open to questions if you have any, other than the ones that you've already asked,
Okay.
Mr. Eric.
So the applicant's not here tonight?
No, it's just me.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right. So questions of the applicant. We'll start on this end this time. Any questions for the applicant?
No
Okay.
question.
Gary? Okay,
I understand that music has been played in the restaurant based upon music videos,
Correct,
and that music videos require an entertainment license.
correct. And we were made aware of that yesterday.
Right.
We were simply not aware.
I-
And the
yeah.
second that the applicant, I let him know, he's like, let me call the restaurant, let me tell them to just simply not put anything. So we are in the process, or we will be in the process of submitting an entertainment type 2
Okay.
license.
That brings my second question. I believe there are 6 tables that are outside, is that correct? Yeah.
Correct.
Are you piping music outside?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
But even so, I was also told by Eric that no music is allowed
Right.
outdoors, and the applicant is aware of that as well.
Particularly given it's a second floor, my concern was you've got lots of neighbors around that we've had enough complaints about noise, we're trying not to add to it. And,
Understood.
if we're a little bit picky here, excuse us, because we've had a lot of concerns about
Noise.
issues in Old Town, so.
And the applicant, he absolutely loves to be a part of this community, so he will work with whatever needs to be worked with in order to remain here and be a part of this wonderful community. If you haven't been able to go to the restaurant, then I do recommend you do stop by.
okay, well, I guess you can pass on feedback that we're giving him tonight, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wish he was here, but, so we have here, let's see. Basically, sorry, 67 conditions of approval that aren't included with the fire prevention and police department. So just my recommendation to the owner is that, just to make sure that he really complies with those, like we're serious about those, they're important, and kind of like what Bob was saying, we've had some concerns in Old Town, so we really, moving forward, want to be able to manage all the alcohol that is in Old Town, and that's where a lot of the problems come from. So I think a big, like, I know Fernando was questioning some of that, but I think that's kind of what's been happening is, customers being overserved. And so I think that's a biggie. So passing that on to the owner, being really responsible of not overserving, and understand that you want to be, or he wants to be open until midnight, which is fair, but that all of these conditions of approval really want him and his restaurant to follow complicitly, explicitly. And so that's about all I have to say. I don't think I have any questions. Any other questions of the applicant? Okay.
And just to answer that, the applicant, they have over 15 locations in, California. We've been through conditional use permits with various cities. They all have their specific conditions. As of today, knock on wood, none of those conditions have been broken. They do understand this runs with the land, and they want to
Right.
be able to continue to serve alcohol responsibly, given that they are a licensed applicant with the ABC with a perfect track history until
Right.
today, so.
Great. Well, we appreciate that. We appreciate that, being responsible in that, and that's really important to us in the city. So thank you. Any other, yes?
I just want to say, and you brought up a good point, that it does run with the land, which is one of the reasons why we become so concerned about it, is that you could be, your client could be a perfect for 10 years, but the day that they leave, somebody comes else in, and they may not be, and we still have to live with that. So we're just becoming very, very picky, so.
Any other comment or questions for the applicant? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very
And
much.
Are there any public comments?
We have none.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and entertain discussion first before any kind of motion. If anybody would like to, has anything they would like to say?
I would just add that, considering we had our joint meeting with the council a couple of weeks ago, and alcohol policy was explicitly discussed and direction given to pursue that, it seems to me that everything involved in this application is consistent with what seemed to be the consensus of that meeting. So as far as that goes, I think that this request is in line with where we want to go as a city. I just thought I'd bring
Yeah.
that up.
Good point. Yeah, Adam?
And then I'll just add, and I was told it would be part of kind of a standard moving forward as well, but I do think it is important that we get some background information
Yes,
on
definitely.
their relationship with code and law enforcement, and hearing that they've had zero problems over there is
Right.
a good thing for, for the applicant as well, so.
And that's always a question of mine, so I like that you asked that that's a
A
standard.
standard, yep.
That we're not having to ask that individually, it's just a standard that's going to come forward.
Yep.
I like
One
that.
thing as well, as part of the review process, I went into all of their alcohol licenses with ABC for all their locations, and ABC has noted no disciplinary action whatsoever with any location. And they've got like 4 pages of stuff, so
That's
they
great.
appear to be good actors.
All right, I like that. Now you just need to stay there. Don't move. Don't give it to somebody else. Any other comments?
I think I walked in. I walked into the business Friday night, I think, and it was completely packed. There was a line waiting, so
Cool.
it looks like a very successful
problem.
business.
Good.
So,
All right, then I'll entertain a motion. If someone would like to,
motion to approve?
motion to approve. All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, so Solis and Hagel, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I think motion carried 5-0. Congratulations, and keep doing good work. All right. Okay, item number 3, long-range planning project number LR23-0180, amending Titles 5 and 17 of the Temecula Municipal Code as detailed in ordinance 2023, quotes, attached here as Exhibit A, Mark. Staff report, please.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening. Forgive me, a little frog in my throat. As mentioned, this
Do you call me ma'am or mayor?
Ma'am. Ma'am, I'm sorry. Uncle Sam comes out from time to time.
Okay, I don't really like ma'am, but that's okay, I know you.
Honorable Chair.
I like that, that's good, okay.
I'll put that in my presentation next time. Just to start this off, this is an annual, you guys have seen this before, you will see another one again. This is something that staff keeps a running tab on throughout the year. We notice certain typos, corrections, just things that need clarification within the code. That is what this ordinance is doing. It's just some clarification items, no big policy changes or anything like that. So just want to preface it with that. As mentioned, this is LR 23-0182, which amends Title 5 and 17 of the Municipal Code. And a little bit of background, the Temecula Municipal Code was originally adopted by the City Council in 1990. Since its adoption, the Temecula City Council has periodically made amendments to various sections of the code to improve its clarity, improve processes, and of course, implement state law. This proposed ordinance would amend Titles 5 and Title 17 of the Temecula Municipal Code. The Planning Commission is required per Government Code Section 65-800 to review and make recommendations to the City Council regarding zoning regulations and amendments to Title 17 of the Temecula Municipal Code. The changes to Title 5, although not under the purview of the Planning Commission, are included to provide clarity and additional information to the Planning Commission regarding the totality of the ordinance. A little bit of history here. It has been to the City Council General Plan Update Subcommittee on October 10th, and then it was seen by the Planning Commission and Municipal Code Update Subcommittee on the 18th of October, and then it is here today, and then it will be going to the City Council on the 28th of this month. We'll get into our changes here. Our single change for Title V is at the recommendation of the Office of Administrative Hearing. We're going to clarify in the appeals section that an administrative law judge has to render a decision from 10 to 30 days, and this is at their request during a previous action before them. And that is it for our Title V. We'll get right into 17. So for Section 17-04020, which is our temporary use permits, we're going to add an exemption for events conducted by a school when exclusively on school property. Specifically for this was MSJC. Well, they don't even be coming in every week for their events and school things like that. And then we're going to amend our home occupation permits, and we're going to clarify that the home occupations are permitted a maximum of 2 commercial vehicles to include when more than one home occupation is at that same residence. They'll be limited to 2. And then table 17-06030 for our residential districts, we're going to be adding note 12 to the table for small animals, poultry, and outdoor aviaries. This is just a note to reference to the table. There's no changes to animal keeping standards or anything like that. And then for our development standards for residential districts, table 17-06040, and we're going to specify that the unit of measure for open space is in square feet. Right now it's just blank. And then for our schedule of permitted uses, we're going to add yoga to the existing aerobics, dance, gymnastics, jazzercise, and martial arts studio greater than and less than 5,000 square feet. And then we're going to correct a discrepancy here between the general plan and Title 17 for our commercial office industrial districts within a planned center and then also standalone buildings. Right now, the general plan has a target floor area ratio, or FAR, of 0.35. And our zoning ordinance has a target of 0.5. We're just correcting the Title 17 to reflect what is in the general plan of 0.35. That's all we're doing with that. Getting into our supplemental development standards, we're going to require that all staircases be internalized for new commercial, office, and industrial buildings. And then we're going to require window, door, security, bars, and devices be internal and not visible from the public right-of-way. And then we're going to correct a reference related to the type of ABC license required for restaurants serving beer and wine and those serving distilled spirits. There's a little typo in there. We have a type 47 when we need to have a type 41, and a type 41 we should have a type 42. So it's corrected some numbers. Sticking with our supplemental development standards, we're going to add development standards for the temporary use of storage containers in all zoning districts. To get into this a little bit, for residential districts, we are not going to be permitting them outside of, for the construction of a new residence or an ADU or something to that effect. They would get a temporary use permit for that, and the storage container would be required to be removed prior to final inspection of the residence. For commercial uses, industrial, professional office, they can be used for extra storage, but they'll be limited to a term of 1 year. and that'll be through a temporary use permit. They can't take up parking, they can't take out landscaping, things like that. It has to be painted to match this store, no advertising, things like that. And then for mixed use, we would allow it for the commercial component of it as the same we would a commercial outside of a mixed use zone, and the residential would be the same for a regular residential district. All right. And then we are going to add development standards for commercial battery storage to include community benefit and a decommissioning plan. This is kind of a new business type that's been popping up. What happens with these? The city of Temecula, we don't have a lot of vacant land. In cities that have vacant land, they're kind of coming into vacant properties, putting up some solar units, and then some battery storage, and then using that as a land use. What's happening here in the city a little more is they're partnering with some of our larger industrial sites, and they're either putting solar on the roof, kind of on their dime, and then adding some battery storage, and then they're storing it and selling it back to the grid through Edison. So that's kind of what we want to make sure we keep an eye on with these standards here. And then for table 17.14.030, our scheduled permitted uses, we're going to remove riding stables and shooting galleries as a conditionally permitted use in the open space and open space conservation zoning designations. This is because last year we amended that zoning designation to only permit passive recreational uses, and these do not meet that definition, so we're removing them with this. And then for our ADU standards, section 17.23030, we're going to clarify that the 4-foot setbacks are a minimum and not a maximum. And then keeping with our ADUs, we're going to be in section 17.23040 for our general requirements, and we're going to add a 6-foot separation from detached ADUs to other structures. This is consistent with the building code. And then keeping with ADUs again, for section 17.23050 ADU standards, we're going to codify City Council Resolution number 2023-28, which is the addressing of ADUs. For a final slide here, we're going to add a definition for health and exercise club. These are going to be our traditional gyms, our LA Fitness, our Sportas, things like that. Membership fee, having establishments that have aquatics, potential spas, things like that. And then we're going to modify the definition of specialty market to specify that all specialty markets shall be a minimum of 10,000 square feet. This was in response to an applicant trying to turn a tobacco shop into a liquor store. So we're trying to make sure we keep it tight. For our CEQA determination, staff has determined that this ordinance is exempt from the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to section 15061B3. And staff's recommendation is to adopt the PC resolution recommending the City Council adopt the ordinance and find the project exempt from environmental review per California Environmental Quality Act, section 15061B3. This completes my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
All right, thank you, Mark. We'll start on this end again. Questions of staff?
Just one, thank you. I was on the subcommittee, so kind of heard this in a little more detail as well. But if we can go back to number 6 is the yoga studios. I know there was some conversation we had about adding Pilates into that, and I didn't know if that was omitted or left out for a particular reason, or?
It was. My memory is not as good as it should be.
Okay.
So it should say yoga and Pilates, or yoga and or Pilates?
Yeah, we had just discussed when you start looking at those categories, there's quite a few Pilates places that have opened up that would kind of fit that same description.
Right,
So,
right.
and including then yoga studios, and then also adding in Pilates to that same portion of it.
Would you like it? We can amend the ordinance to reflect Pilates. Would you?
I would think it would make sense based on
That's
what we've
fine.
got, yeah.
Fine
Okay,
with me.
we can do that.
I think that was, like I said, we'd heard this in some lengthy detail. I didn't notice that was one thing that we discussed that was left out, so thank you.
Thank you. The 4-foot setback for ADUs, that's different than a setback for other structures on residential property?
ADU law, as it came down from state, typically we have side yard and rear setbacks that are more substantial than 5 feet. Typically, we keep 5 for interior side yard setbacks and 10 to 20 feet for rear, depending on the zoning. In this case, ADU law preempts the city in that we are required to accept no less than 4 feet.
Okay, but that won't change the setback for other types of things then?
Correct.
Okay.
That is specific to ADUs.
Okay. This is just something I'm curious about. Going back to the animals, I occasionally hear complaints about poultry. And,
Little chickies?
yeah, little
running
chickies, and not complaints necessarily about having too many, which I think you're allowed to have 4 or something like that, but noise. If somebody does have an issue with noise and complains, how is that handled? Is that handled under this ordinance, or is that something different?
That would be handled through code enforcement. When we passed the animal ordinance, I believe in 2021, the sorry, that's very loud.
What is that? Is that the air conditioner?
Air conditioning.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll check on it.
For typical residential uses in the LM zoning district, you are allowed up to 4. You are not allowed to have roosters of any kind, no male species of chickens, any type of waterfowl. So if there are crowing fowl, then they should be reported to code enforcement, and we will get that taken care of.
Okay. I think that's it, yeah.
Mr. Solis, questions of staff?
Couple. All right, I read this, very detailed. I have a couple questions. Number 6, for yoga studio, I see that there's like categories of dance, martial arts studios. Is there like an MMA or a boxing? I know that's very popular right now. Is that categorized under this, or is that a separate category?
This would be, we kind of have it broken down. I'll get to the pocket slide for you guys. So these are what I call our physical activity related type land uses. You have up top there the Health and Exercise Club, which will be our traditional gym, your LA Fitnesses and so forth. We have our aerobics, dance, gymnastics, jazz. That's kind of those smaller class type settings where you would have an instructor teaching one or several students. And then our sports and recreation facilities, those are more geared towards your DBATs, your training facilities, things like that, the pickleball courts, things such as that. So this is kind of how we have it broken up.
So where does the like MMA or boxing fit in there?
Depending on the how the statement of operation came in, if they were a private one-on-one facility, they would probably come in under the aerobics, dance, gymnastics, exercise, and a lot of that would just depend on how they come in with their statement of operations and what exactly they're proposing, the size of the facility, how they're going to be training, things like that.
Well, since we're adding yoga studio, could we add MMA or boxing, as it's very similar to martial arts?
I think it would fall under the martial arts.
Yeah.
MMA is
Yeah.
mixed martial arts, so it'd fall under that. UFC gyms, jujitsu gyms,
Don't start
they'd all
trying to
fall under
add
all that.
all this.
I was just, the clarity, I don't know. Could we add boxing in there?
We certainly could if that's the desire of the commission.
Do we need to?
I think so. I mean, if right now we're having a question about should we or should we not?
I will say this, at the counter, I have seen several requests for Pilates and similar type activities. I have not had a request for any type of boxing or anything like that.
And I know it's different, I mean, somewhat, but I would think a lot of that generally would fall under martial arts, would be my take on it, especially if we haven't had like a massive influx of it. I would think if all of a sudden we get a bunch of boxing gyms that open up and there's some concern about their type of permit, then maybe it would need to be addressed there. This is an annual update, and I believe we can update it probably, if necessary, at a different time as well. But based on
Okay.
kind of what we've got going for now, I would think martial arts would cover
Okay.
the areas you're concerned with.
I would agree.
I was
Alright.
just going to ask our attorney if she felt that that was sufficient language to address Fernando's concern.
Yes, because staff, not every single use that comes to the counter is always listed on a table. And so staff will interpret the code. And if there's any question, it rises up to the level of the community development director in terms of what use, is it similar to other uses within the table as either a permitted or conditionally permitted use? And so an interpretation could easily be made. I think that boxing is akin to one of
Okay.
those listed uses.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
My next question is on number 12. The shipping containers. It says limited in duration. Is there like a time that typically these structures stay on?
It would be set by the temporary use permit when that is applied for, but the ordinance specifies that it would not exceed 1 year.
Got it. Okay, and my last question is number 16. The existing structures, the last sentence, or sorry. What is there a clarification of the setbacks from maybe like a patio or, maybe my question is, are patios and maybe garages, is that an accessory structure? Is that also going to be the distance of 6 feet? Are they under the same, is it
They would be
existing
considered accessory structures, and they would fall under that same requirement.
6 feet?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I think that's it. Thank you.
Are you sure? Just
Positive.
teasing. Okay. Gary? No? No questions? Any other questions of staff? Okay. Do we have any public comments on this?
We have none?
We have none, so I don't have to open a public hearing or anything. So fun. It's just us. Okay. All right. So any discussion on item number 3 for changes that are being made?
One thing that did come up in the subcommittee meeting that I think we should all hear is how the staff gets all the changes besides law, all the changes that are accumulated every 6 months, every year, or whatever. If you just want to explain how you do that. So.
Yeah, of course. So what this happens every year, we keep a running list on our SharePoint page. It's accessible to all of our planners, anyone in community development or citywide, essentially, for that matter. And as we work through the code with various applicants for different projects, or we're doing research, or fire comes across something, or anyone sees a discrepancy, an issue, something that needs some clarification, we document it in our spreadsheet. We keep a running list, and then usually around early summertime, the long-range team gets together. We kind of start pulling everything together, drafting everything, and then usually around summertime, we bring that before you guys for recommendation for city council. So we just kind of keep it cleaned up as we go, so that way we don't have any big deficiencies in the code from lack of attention.
I also like the fact that the planners take turns in answering phone calls from the outside, and a lot of those phone calls are asking for clarifications or may point out things that they don't understand or possibly even incorrect, and that's all kept on a spreadsheet. So I think it's a great thing. Probably we're picking up way more than most cities will in discrepancies and do a much better job of clarifying as we go along. So to Fernando's question about, is that an issue regarding boxing or whatever, that will get picked up if those questions start coming in and there's not, they need clarification or something like that. So I think that's really good that every year now we're seeing, all these little changes, and there's a good reason behind them is people are confused and ask questions. So I think that's great.
And one thing, too, that's very helpful is that a lot of the applicants are trying to poke holes and find loopholes and everything else. So by their questions and kind of
No.
testing us, I know it happens very rarely.
Terrible.
But it gives us kind of an insight into what they're trying to do, and then we can prepare for that ahead of
Well,
time.
I appreciate that you guys are on it. That's the most important thing, that you're kind of proactive. I like that. Any other discussion or anything before we make an emotion? Make an emotion? Make a motion? We don't want to have any emotion with it, but, all right.
I'll move the, what is it, number, LR 230180 for approval.
And then
With the
With the
amendment
addition
to,
of Pilates to under item number 6.
so it's section 9, table 17.08.030, that we are adding Pilates to the description of uses that are either permitted or conditionally permitted.
And I will
Yes.
second.
Oh, and we got a motion and a second by Bob and a second by Adam. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion carried 5-0. Awesome. Okay, we're going to move on down to commissioner reports. We'll start on this end this time. Mr. Solis, do you have a report for us?
No report, just a comment. I'd like to thank staff for the attention of detail, like, that we're going through this code. And it's helping out everyone. I'm sure the community is also benefiting from it, so.
Thank you. Gary? Nothing? Okay. Adam?
Yeah, I just want to congratulate you on your reappointment here to this commission. I shared my thoughts already with city council prior to, but your dedication to, this department and the city is obviously seen, but your experience here on this commission helps me be a better commissioner as well. So just appreciate all that you offer and all that you do, and wanted to formally congratulate your reappointment.
You. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate that. Bob?
I just wanted to say congratulations again. And last Friday night, I attended the carnival, the Halloween carnival, and I'll tell you what a success that was. I had an incredible number of people there, and it was really a blast. And I give a lot of credit to the commissioners that were there judging them. That was probably one of the most difficult judgments to make, was who are the cutest, you know? But it was really a lot of fun and great, and my grandkids had a great time, so.
Okay. Well, thank you, and I appreciate my colleagues, for those that did, saying something to city council members. You never know what city council is going to do. Oh, are you listening? Anyway, you never know what they're going to do. So I am grateful for another 3 years, and it's been a fun journey. I've learned a lot, and I really appreciate the staff. Really appreciate Luke and Matt stepping in here, and anyway, I just always know that I can, call Eric and whoever is doing that particular item and get good feedback and good direction. And I think that helps us at this meeting for it to run more smoothly when we have that. And I also wanted to say, and I'm sad about this, but I think I'm the one who said we should have like something at these events, have our own, right? And I'm going to be out of town for that parade. So does anyone want to take hold of that and build a little float for the planning commissioners? Or something, like a truck or something. You like
No.
trucks?
I will be out of town as well, so I won't be able to make it.
I think I'm
so.
in the same boat. But
So
when I
we're
saw
gonna
that,
be like-
I was like, oh, Lene's going to be so happy. She gets her own float now. We're going to be good. So
I know, and
think
Lene's
the irony
not
that you're
gonna
going to be out of
here.
town
Okay,
is.
all
I think the
right.
deadline is next week, or is it?
Yeah, but I mean, you have to be here.
You know, if you could get it built, we could use it at the Rose Parade.
Oh, wow. Okay, we're thinking
We'll think about
high.
it, we'll think about it, because I do have a
You
little
have it-
truck.
You have a little truck?
Little truck.
Okay, and you would be in town. Oh, no, you're out of town. It might just be you
Might
and
be,
Gary. There you
and my trailer.
It might just be you and your family.
Well,
But
can
you
we-
know what? That would be awesome if we could have representation. I would love that.
And I was just going to say, can we just go on record that community services, we do appreciate this, so don't take this away from us.
Yeah,
Since
don't.
there's a
It
schedule
just happens
conflict.
to be, yeah, right,
just a little
right.
rough right
Yes,
now, yeah.
definitely put that in the record. Okay, all right. Commission subcommittee reports.
Sure.
Gary, I'm going to let you do that.
The Altair Development Subcommittee met earlier today, and as you know, that project was approved a few years ago and was tied up in litigation, and I believe that that's all settled, and we do have coming before us at some point, the project. I can't go into a lot of detail, but it's going to be significantly similar to the original one, so there will be a lot of affordable in quotes, housing, or attainable housing, I think is probably the correct term to use. So there'll be a lot of sizes. There's going to be interesting architectural developments that we haven't seen much of in Temecula, so it will be something new. So that's about it. If you remember the old, the first approval had 1,750 roughly, maybe 52, I think. I don't want to get the figure wrong, but housing units and what they're coming in now, it looks like at about slightly under 1,100. So anyhow, it'll be a big variety, and it's going to be phased, so we'll keep you informed, and I believe that it will be before us sometime in the near future.
Thanks, Gary. I'll just add, originally there was supposed to be a school there, and that the school district did not jump on that. So there's, so they have homes or their building site in there instead of a school. So it's a high-density project, which is, I think, a little bit different than what we've had before. We did talk about there are some similarities in the city with Harveston and some other of how single-family homes are built, and that's kind of how they're projecting that to look like too. So, but I think they took some of our feedback, and I think that it will, if they do take that feedback, I think it will be a beautiful project, and it will look varied instead of just the same thing, right? And so we talked to them a lot about that, and that we expect really great things in Temecula. So, all right, thanks, Gary. Any other subcommittees that met? No? Okay. All right, Mr. Matt, you're up.
Just wanted to say congratulations, Madam Chair, on your reappointment.
Ma'am.
Ma'am. We look forward to working with you the next few years. 3 more years.
3 more years. Thank you.
Yeah, very good.
Thanks, Matt.
And then to the General Plan Update Subcommittee, look for an appointment to discuss SB 9 prior to that going to the Planning Commission. So I'll work with Denise tomorrow to get that appointment out.
Okay, for the
Okay.
subcommittee, right.
That's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Matt. And Ron?
Yeah, our French Valley project continues to go well. We'll have a couple closures that we'll notice everyone on. And our slurry seal projects are starting off in Los Ranchitos area and multiple areas, but that's getting going this month too.
Question about Los Ranchitos and the roundabout. Is that going to always look like that?
No.
Please say no. Okay, wow. It looks like a what do they call, bumper car thing?
No, it
Okay,
won't.
good.
And actually, we went and looked at the welds and the paint that was done on the horse. So that's on its way, but we're doing some other analysis first before that roundabout is made to look the way it should look.
Okay,
So it's not always going to look that way.
not always going to have the barriers.
Oh, no. We're
Okay,
working
good.
on it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, if there's going to be any type of barrier, it would be a permanent, aesthetic-looking, very nice-looking barrier, but that's not the way it's going to stay.
Okay, awesome. I had people really concerned.
Yeah, well,
Janet.
if we want to do it, we're going to do it right, so
Okay,
it's going to take a little time.
all right, sounds good. Any questions for Ron? Anybody? Okay. All right, so unless there's anything else, we're going to adjourn until Wednesday, November 15th at 6 p.m. Woohoo! Go Texas Rangers, just saying. They're going to win tonight.